This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Hey, Gotham Sports app subscribers. It's the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante. Opening day of today. Best day of the year. Yankees tied for first. Yankees tied for last, sadly. But ahead of the Cubs, who are 0-2. Big-time losers. DFA'd Cody Poteet today, in fact. Thank you for joining us live on the podcast. First pitch is at 3:05 Eastern today against the Milwaukee Brewers. We are taking you up to first pitch with our last-minute Yankees season preview, talking about the roster, talking about the lineup, talking about the injured list, which we knew was coming, but still funny to see last night. It's the biggest injured list of all time. Which Yankees players are we excited for? Who is going to break out? Who is our secret MVP? Final record predictions. We'll have it all for you today. We appreciate you joining us live on the stream, 2 o'clock Eastern, every Monday, every Thursday, as well as on all podcast platforms, auditorially in the aftermath of the podcast going live on YouTube. I'm Adam Weinrib, of course, but joining me, as always, more importantly, is Thomas Carannante. Let's talk Yankees baseball. The games matter. Nobody secretly got hurt between the finale in Miami and today. We don't think. If they did, they made the opening day roster anyway. We thought maybe some last-minute shuffling, but precious few surprises. The Yankees are ready to go.
Turns out that bat wasn't available. Now was it?
Might still be, though. I will caution. I don't think the bat's exciting, but I will caution people to remember Esteban Florial 2 years ago, who came north with the Yankees, pinch ran against the Giants, even though everybody was like, wait, is he going to make the team? He can't make the team, right? He did, and then he got DFA'd for Franchi Cordero between game 1 and 2. So, Buddy
That's
Kennedy,
what's going to happen with Oswald Peraza.
That's what it smells like is going to happen with Oswald Peraza. Buddy Kennedy is DFA'd. Eguy Rosario is DFA'd of the San Diego Padres. So there's names out there. I like him too. It depends on who y'all think is an upgrade and who the Yankees believe is an upgrade. Thomas, we talked earlier, we don't really dress for opening day, or you don't, but I kind of do. And I've got the Garrett Cole shirt on today for good reason, because the whole season's about honoring Garrett Cole. It's going to feel kind of weird as they progress without him. You'll see him in the dugout a lot, but this season is for you. Garrett, get well. And then Andy Pettitte on the mound today, delivering the first pitch. So your Andy Pettitte jersey retirement patch, fitted cap, thought about the 2024 World Series hat, and then decided, wait, why would I want to think about the 2024 World Series? So I took it off and I put the Pettitte hat on. Get the glove stare, get Carlos Rodon, some good mojo. It's only one game. It means nothing, but also means everything.
Yes.
The Yankees have somehow won opening day in 2022, 23, and 24. That's kind of crazy. Best of luck today. It's only one game, but we're excited for it. You don't usually dress up for the opener, but you got the shirt, you got the hat.
So I usually dress up for the opener. I don't dress up for games, or I definitely don't dress up for the playoffs unless I'm going to a game. It's very superstitious. Every time I wear Yankees gear outside of just the first celebratory moment of the year beginning, it just doesn't turn out well. And I know that's obviously, you lose 60 to 70 times in a year anyway. So I know that sounds kind of dumb, but it's odd. Every time that I would randomly be like, yeah, I'm going to wear my Yankee shirt today, it would be like a crushing defeat that you could never comprehend. But I got my All Rise shirt on that I got at the stadium back in the day. And I have my little fancy Mitchell and Ness Yankees World Series. I think this is actually is this the anniversary of the, yes, 100th anniversary of Yankee Stadium, I think it was, 1903 to 2003. Yeah. I thought this was a sick hat. So, wearing some white, wearing some blue, feeling pretty good. I got positive last night. I said to myself, thought about the 2024 World Series for a second there, and I got mad. I got mad because we have Dodgers, the Dodgers talking their shit this offseason, and that got under my skin just because they were even more so a laughingstock than the Yankees have been with all their playoff chokes over the last decade or so. Then you have Mets fans, doing their thing. I get, the excitement with Juan Soto is very much warranted, but the rest of the team is certainly kind of, I don't know. It's not there. If you look at it on paper, they have very similar injuries to us. We have the proper depth to absorb it. The Mets don't. So I don't know where. And again, it's like you look at the Yankees and it's like, yeah, it was fine to hate us 15 years ago. Like we were winning or we were always there and it got annoying. The Yankees are always in the ALCS. The Yankees are always in the World Series. They won 4 World Series in the 5-year span. But now it's just like boring to hate the Yankees. It's a tired act at this point. Like you hate us for what? Sucking? Have fun when we're not good. Like that's fine. Just randomly hating us for no reason or for the fact that we lost free agents, which happens to every team, is just, it's annoying to me. So like I said earlier, I'm fully, as you all know, rooting against the Red Sox every game. The 162 one-game seasons for the Yankees wins are the same for Red Sox losses for me. And then I will be an avid opponent of Mets and Dodgers unless they're playing the Red Sox. So then I will be a fan of all 28 or 27 MLB teams when they're playing the Mets or the Dodgers or the Red Sox. So that's where we're at. And I'm actually feeling good. I think that at the very least, what this roster has to offer us, the Yankees dropped the opening day roster in the lineup, by the way. We'll talk about that in a second. But quick rundown of what we have at our disposal this year. I looked at everything. I read a little bit more. I said, you know what? The losses are the losses, right? Can't undo Garrett Cole's Tommy John surgery. Can't wish Giancarlo Stanton comes back tomorrow. Can't get Juan Soto back. It's not happening. Can't fix all these other ridiculous injury issues. If you look at this lineup, the Yankees dropped their lineup today. There is no black hole. I think every position here offers upside, with the exception of Aaron Judge, whose upside is already maximized. There's no way you can get better than Aaron Judge. Unless I guess he were able to pitch, then we could figure something out.
Well, surely there's nobody who does that.
Yeah. So if you look at everything else, top to bottom, every player either has room to get better, has room for redemption, or is on some sort of ascension. So that's what I like. I know that we had a lot of our gripes with this roster, right? We sat here and we said this team went into opening day essentially without a left field solution, whether or not you feel good about Jason Dominguez. He's not a left fielder. They went into opening day without a third base solution. They went into opening day with very much an incomplete bullpen. They went into opening day attempting to have the most depth in the starting rotation in all of baseball, and now they have none left. I think that one was out of their control, but these are the ones that we have had our complaints about. I think even Dominguez in left, massive upside with him. I think at this point he's an underrated X factor.
Agreed.
With the way that we look at it. And I think they will find a different third baseman in due time. I think we'll talk about that in one of our last segments. But Oswaldo Cabrera is, I think, a solid baseball player. And if he gets the proper time and if he is surrounded by the right hitters and this lineup is constructed properly by Aaron Boone on a day-to-day basis, could be a league average bat and a good defensive glove. And I think that's a massive plus for this team after what we've experienced over the last 5 years.
It's a deeper lineup than last year. And if you're watching the pregame, Aaron Judge just said that about 20 minutes ago. It's so tiresome. I mean, like, look, everybody stay offline because you're going to get tweets from endless 12-year-olds being like what smells bad in the comments of this Yankees lineup. And they're going to act like they weren't doing that last year when it was Judge, Soto, and a whole bunch of randos. I mean, the gap fillers, Alex Verdugo, Anthony Rizzo hitting 200. Like, there was so much mess on last year's lineup. Jose Trevino, God love him, like hitting in the low 200s, high 180s with a compromised throwing arm. Like, you look at what they're running out here, and yeah, there were no big surprises on opening day, which is good. You don't want big surprises. The biggest surprise was J.C. Escarra making the team, and Brent Hedrick, which had been foretold a couple of days ago, finally being official, and then bringing Ryan Yarbrough in at the last minute. And it is a little jarring to look at the roster and see there are only 3 people listed as infielders: Goldschmidt, Peraza, and Volpe. The rest are utility: Cabrera, Jazz, and Pablo Reyes, and Ben Rice. But they dropped the lineup today, and it's Wells leading off. Okay, obviously, strange. It never happened before in New York, but a prototypical leadoff hitter. He hit 6 home runs this spring. Not that spring's a be-all, end-all, but it could work, and it works better than Volpe.
Yep.
Wells, Judge, Bellinger, Goldschmidt, Jazz, Jason. Is that one of the best top 6s in baseball? Like,
it could be.
It could be. It might not be, but it easily could be. Then, of course, you go down to Volpe, Ben Rice, Cabrera, which every single player we mentioned has upside. Maybe Cabrera's upside is a low ceiling, high floor. Like, I don't think he's going to crater and fall apart. I also don't think he's going to hit 320 with 24 homers.
Yeah.
Sure. Stability at the bottom of the lineup. Rice, Volpe, Dominguez, all somewhat boom or bust. Like, there's certainly a low floor for all three of those players, but Volpe, we've seen the low floor. We've lived through it. The last 2 years were the low floor. It doesn't get worse than the first 2 years of Volpe's floor. And Rice, put up or shut up. I think a lot of us were thinking we'd see Stanton on the 60-day IL when they put out that hilarious IL drop yesterday, when it was only 10 days. It was everybody. It was everybody we already knew was injured, but it was like the Yankees would like to put the following people on the injured list. 17 guys. I was like, oh, thank you. Appreciate that tweet. I was having fun, and now I'm not. But Stanton on the 10-day, Jake Cousins the only one who goes on the 60-day. Haven't heard from him in weeks, and not surprising. That
another lie.
Another lie. He's getting better. He's going to be throwing soon. Clayton Beater is going to be out a while, but he shows up on the 15-day yesterday, and you're like, oh, so I guess Cousins is worse. And then there he goes. We don't have him. So that's the only surprise in the negative. And then surprise in the positive, Stanton and Loaizaga both avoid the long stint. Somebody told us Loaizaga had been on the 60-day, but I couldn't find it. And then all of a sudden, he's not. It's not true. So Stanton on the 10-day, that doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean he's going to be back in 10 days. Doesn't mean he's going to be back in the first half. But it does mean they're not eliminating any possibilities. Andy Martino says severe in a column today. Severe might have been overshooting it. The Yankees know Stanton is going to be overly cautious with himself. It doesn't mean anything. They're not that worried. They think he'll be back well before October and well before he's needed in the later part of the season. Doesn't say much, but says a little. And then he's apparently been swinging bats, as Brandon Cuddy noted, not swinging sexually, but swinging baseball bats to try and. I'm glad he followed up that tweet. But already getting back into baseball activities. They obviously waited to opening day to drop that for a reason. You still can't expect to see him, but we might have been overly cautious here. I wrote off Stanton for the year. So did you. I think a lot of other people did too. And, here we are, right? Maybe not.
Could be good. I don't know. Again, you just mentioned Jay Cousins. You never know. They'll tell you it's going well and it's progressing fine. And then you get an injury diagnosis that was not expected at all. Look at Clark Schmidt. When we're supposed to get news on Clark Schmidt, we don't. The Yankees say, yeah, everything's fine. Don't worry about it. And then there's something new that says, oh, yeah, no, push back till late April. And it's like, all right. So, look, I'm not going to be as pessimistic as I was about Stanton previously just because we have no answers. But you want to talk about floor and ceiling here? The floor is that he's out for the first half of the year. That's the floor. I think, best case scenario, he's back in mid-August, in my opinion. And he gets enough, he gets 3 weeks of runway. Rosters expand in September. He catches fire, October. We don't need to look ahead that far. Either way, I think this group right now, if they, again, like we look at the roster in years past and we're just like last year, Alex Verdugo, just be league average and we'll be fine. Couldn't be league average. Wasn't even close to it. And it was a disaster. You look at these guys and it's like, okay, there's a great mix of veterans with young players. If the veterans, for the most part, can just hold their own, if the young players, for the most part, can just take little steps forward and not absolutely crater their production and have us wondering about what their future is going to look like, then I think this is a good team. Again, it's a balanced lineup. The naked eye, the Yankees fans, average Yankees fans, naked eye, I think is going to be very surprised with the athleticism and the Titan fundamentals that we're about to see with this team. You have an upgrade at second base with Jazz Chisholm. You have year 3 of Volpe, who's only been improving defensively. You have Paul Goldschmidt over Anthony Rizzo at first base. Even though Paul Goldschmidt is 37 years old, I still think that that's a massive upgrade. You have Oswald Peraza at third base. He's a very good defender. He might not be the best at the hot corner, but he's somebody who can hold his own there. You have Judge back in right field. You have Cody Bellinger, who's one of the best defensive center fielders in the league. And then you have Jason Dominguez, who was a question mark, but ever since the first week and a half of spring training, there hasn't been anything overly concerning with his play out there. So again, if he can just not be a disaster and produce a little bit at the plate, or if he wants to be a disaster in left field, that's fine. Hit 30 home runs, and then we don't have to have a conversation anymore. So I'm looking at the diversity in terms of lefty and righty bats. I know they're a little bit lefty heavy, but it at least gives them flexibility. And I'm looking at how they improved in two areas that they have massively been lacking the last 2 years, defense and athleticism. And it changes the complexion of everything. And I don't know if that's going to kind of be a shock to the team because they haven't really been constructed like that in a very long time. Like, I feel like we've been complaining about this since 2019 or something. But with renewed energy, with the chip on their shoulder with the World Series, with the new guys coming in, a lot of new guys who have to prove themselves and take the next step and who are happy to be here. Paul Goldschmidt, proud to be a Yankee. Cody Bellinger, proud to be a Yankee. Max Fried, proud to be a Yankee. All good things, all good energy. I think we could be primed for a surprise season. And I'm not saying that that is the prediction from me. I have nothing to predict here. There's no way you can project what year over year what this team can do. It's a completely new team. And there's a sour taste in the mouth. So I think the motivation and human element does play a factor here, but I think it can be exciting. I also I know this is hedging my bet, but it could very well not go well. Because there's a lot of things that need to come together. I am confident that the young talent is at least far along enough to get to that point. More so than I am that there is going to be just, a Yankees disease that affects the whole roster and nobody can produce. So I am excited that this can be a version of an underdog with that type of vibe throughout the year. And that's what I'm kind of going to push for.
I am a believer in this team to an extent, and we'll get to that in the predictions. Yeah, of course, there's a chance that every rookie is bad and they're bad. On opening day, that doesn't feel like the most likely outcome to me. It also doesn't feel like there was a Jeff Passan prediction this week that was like they're betting on so many different outcomes. I just don't understand how they can. And this is coming from the guy who picked them to win the East when Garrett Cole was healthy. And then as soon as Cole's not healthy, he's like, the lineup is full of question marks. And it's like, I get it. But also, Garrett Cole is not the difference between the lineup being ready and not being ready. I believe in more of these people than I don't. Like, I'm looking at the roster and I'm looking at, okay, where's the dead weight? And Peraza, I don't believe in right now. And Trent Grisham, I'd rather there was an alternative solution there. Not my favorite backup outfielder. Yeah. Ultimately a low impact position. Not my choice. Would like to upgrade that. And obviously want a different starter than Oswaldo Cabrera, but don't mind him on the roster. We'll see. We'll get to third base. Rotation. Man, whose dumb tweet was I mad at the other? Oh, it was the MLB executive burner who might be a real executive, might be a fake guy. A lot of people think is Orioles GM Mike Elias, but is probably just some schmo at home trying to make you believe that. Had some tweet that was like, the Yankees have a $300 million payroll and they're using Carlos Carrasco. That's enough to fire Brian Cashman and clean house. And it's like, first of all, when it's time to hold Brian Cashman's feet to the fire, come to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. We'll be here. Don't worry. Yeah. We're not giving Brian Cashman a pass. But the goal wasn't to have your fucking eighth starter be in the rotation. Brian Cashman didn't build a roster and sit back and crack his knuckles and go, I think I'll put Carrasco in there and trade Nestor and trade Heel and trade Cole, and trade Schmidt. No, come on, guys. Yeah. Like Fried, Rodon, Stroman, Warren, Carrasco. Ideal? No. Top 15 rotation in baseball? I'll say no. Not groundbreaking. But if you get Heel and Schmidt back, I don't really have a problem with this group. And I definitely don't have a problem with bringing Carrasco north for opening day. And controversial statement, I was on the Will Warren Express. Last couple of spring training starts, not great. If Carrasco is solid early and Warren struggles during meaningful games, I don't have a problem demoting Will Warren. I still think there's potential there, but I'm with a team this strapped for pitching. I'm not losing Carrasco for nothing unless he's Asher Wojciechowski and he's DFAable and you can say goodbye to him in a couple weeks. Then let's do it. But for now, I think the rotation is decidedly average to below. The lineup is above average in my opinion, but there are a lot of question marks there. And yes, there's a low floor. And I think the rotation by the end of the year, presuming that they also do something at the trade deadline, which I don't think you can avoid at this point. I think the rotation is top 8-10 if everybody comes back. And I think the lineup is solidly in a similar area, which is just about where I'm projecting the Yankees to be. There's a best case version of this team. There's a worst case version of this team, of course, but I'm going to veer a little bit closer to the best case. Not all the way there. I'm not inflated on hopium, but I have a reasonable positive take about this team. We'll see. And I think it reflects in the player I'm most excited to watch this year, who is Paul Goldschmidt, who is a 37-year-old, who is someone who came over from St. Louis, a disappointing St. Louis team last year. But look, everything I saw in spring training just made me remember how nice it is to have a rock-solid presence at first, how nice it is to have a Mark Teixeira-esque glove without the Mark Teixeira swing and miss at the plate. Teixeira was a little bit more of a K king than he was sold to us when he came over from Anaheim in free agency. Loved him. And I don't think Paul Goldschmidt's hitting 38 homers, but there's just something so aesthetically pleasing about the way he pulls his hands in, the way he takes pitches to left, right, center, the damage he does, but also the little things he does. 37, yeah, I'd rather have Goldschmidt at 33. But since I can't get in the time machine, I'm already very impressed with what I saw this spring from him and the rock steadiness there. Your pick here doesn't surprise me at all and was my number 2 choice, but I just decided to go with Goldschmidt because I'm a sucker for players like him. Yeah. And I think he'll just be granite as long as he's healthy. I think he'll just be someone you can count on. The upside's not there the way it used to be, but man, after what we had last year at the first base position, after what we saw the year before at the first base position, should be really nice.
Yeah, I agree. I love Paul Goldschmidt. I think that was one of the additions we were lobbying for all offseason. The only reason I went with a non-Yankee, I guess you could say, because he's new, and Cody Bellinger is my player I'm most excited to watch this year, is because I've seen the young guys already, and I'm already excited about them. So I don't, we've elaborated upon their developments and what they can bring to the team enough. I think Cody Bellinger is somebody who maybe people forget about just because his drop-off was so significant with the Dodgers. He was arguably a top 3 player from 2017 to 2019. Then a shoulder injury completely derailed him for a few years. Then he gets non-tendered by the Dodgers. Again, like former Rookie of the Year, former MVP, Gold Glove outfielder, non-tendered. That is jarring. And I think it's a testament to the Dodgers saying it's time to move on, and they were actually better for it. And it's also a shocking baseball business decision that you're like, how is this happening? But Cody Bellinger hasn't been an all-star since 2019. I know that he had a little bit of an up and down showing in Chicago. Last year, he was limited by injuries. The year before, he was also limited by injuries, but he registered 4.8 WAR and hit 26 homers with 97 RBIs. I think that he has 30 homer potential. He's athletic enough to steal 15 bags, and he's going to greatly improve the Yankees center field defense, which year over year has not been a problem. But again, it's putting all the pieces together. If you have an elite right fielder and elite center fielder, it changes the complexion of every single game. It changes the complexion of tight moments in big games. So I think that he's also out to prove himself in a big way after all that's happened. And the fact that the Cubs gave up on him this offseason because they didn't want to pay the money. They deemed him too expensive, which is what all these billionaire owners do. So, and again, a guy who wants to be here, wants to play, is excited. And I think he brings the right energy, the right, I would say, level of chill, if you will. And I love lefties. Lefties are my guys. And I think he's going to benefit greatly from the talent he's surrounded by in this lineup.
Yeah, what a pickup. Great trade, too. $5 million coming over from the Cubs. We send him Cody Poteet, and they DFA Cody Poteet today. So shout out to the Cubs. Maybe Poteet comes back. I wouldn't be stunned, although they believe in Yarborough, and they like having Carrasco around. Yarborough, also very cool. The Yarborough is ours for now. Player who will surprise us the most, I'm going to go with Austin Wells. I think mostly because of the sticker shock of seeing a catcher who looks like him with the thick mustache and the burly build in the leadoff spot. I think it's unfair to say you are Kyle Schwarber now. I don't think we're going to see that right away. Like, oh, thanks for heading into the leadoff spot. Can you give us 38 bombs? No, but a similarly intimidating presence. Wells had a strange year last year, too. We remember July and August. And we remember the September struggles. We don't remember the April and May struggles, too. It's amazing they stuck with him, given the numbers early in the season, for him to eventually turn into what he turned into. The best version of the Yankees had Wells as their third most dangerous hitter or fourth most, depending on how you viewed Stanton.
Yeah.
Jazz showed up, knocked him down the totem pole, and then in September he was awful. But the fact that they got to the World Series with Wells, the compromised version of Wells, just basically being unusable all postseason long is crazy. And so I think a lot of people remember him that way. And I think we're going to remember him very differently very soon. I think they lose today. That's not fun. That's not what anybody wants to hear. But I think Wells goes yard. And I think that's the most memorable moment from the Yankees side of things. A long Wells home run to right.
WellsGoesYard.com.
WellsGoesYard.biz. Maybe launch that.
He was going to be my player most excited to watch this year, just because he's the prospect I've always been most excited about. I loved his bat. I've loved the fact that he's persevered through all the can he catch nonsense, and he's a very good catcher. Like the day he was drafted, we're talking about moving his positions already, and it's like, all right, folks, just relax. But my pick here is Ben Rice. I think that you want to talk about prospect pedigree, had none. This guy was unranked as a prospect in 2023, makes his debut in 2024. You have to consider these massive leaps, right? He made massive leaps in the minor leagues since 2021, and then he's playing for this team in 2024 because injuries decimate the roster and the Yankees need help. He has a 3-homer game against the Red Sox. He flashes this power and this really good eye at the plate. And again, we have to take into account that all these prospect developments and young player developments are not linear. It's just the way it is. So I think Ben Rice getting that exposure at the major league level was massive. And we saw the highs of what he was capable of in terms of power and in terms of patience. And we saw the lows in terms of the swing and miss and maybe the aggressiveness that came back to haunt him because he reached a level where he wasn't balancing the patience and that aggressiveness. I think this year in spring training, the fact that the most impressive thing to me about this is Giancarlo Stanton goes down, right? And we're sitting there, we're like, great, where are we getting DH reps from, man? Like this is a nightmare. I understand a lot of us get frustrated with Stanton in terms of his day-to-day production because he's not really a regular season player anymore. He hasn't been in a few years, and injuries and the lack of consistency in playing time and him able to get into a rhythm affects all that. But to me, at least, what I was watching, Ben Rice left nothing open for interpretation. He had a pretty much a good spring throughout. I know beginning it was slow, but the last 2.5, 3 weeks, he really came on. And then the conversation just died down. We were just like, yeah, Ben Rice is the DH. It makes sense. Mm-hmm. He's swinging a good lefty bat right now. We see him pitch as well. He scorched 2 of the fastest exit velocities of his career during spring training. So I think that if he's moved around, he's a guy who could be moved around properly too, right? He can catch a little bit. He could play first base. He can DH. I don't know what the Yankees are going to do. It remains to be seen. But you're talking about a guy with 20-plus homer power. You're talking about a young guy who, again, excited to be here, proud to be a Yankee, is looking to take that next step and knows that time is running out for him to prove himself. So I think he's going to emerge as somebody who fans are very much going to value for the next 5-6 years.
Yes, I love Rice too. And I love that he's a Massachusetts native. And I love that finally the production is starting to match the numbers below the hood this spring and hopefully into the regular season. Somehow they're 2 left-handed now. Weird, but I like that he's a lefty. I like that he fits in the stadium. Trade deadline acquisition predictions. So I'm going to stick to what I originally wrote here because I'm a man of honesty and I'm a man of integrity. And I no longer think this is going to happen after today's Giancarlo Stanton update. But I'm going to say it out loud, and then I'm going to give you an alternative because I wrote Luis Robert Jr. as the DH just because of how shocked he was still on the White Sox. I'm shocked he's going to be available. I think he's going to have a good enough season to be able to slot in and help a contender somewhere. But if Stanton is going to be ready sometime around the second half, then I don't think the Yankees are going to be splurging on an outfielder or a fourth outfield DH rotational hybrid, what have you. I'm saying it out loud because it's on the sheet and I'm giving it to the audience, but I actually don't think that's happening. Let me go with Dylan Cease because I think some people are believers in the Padres and I am not. I think too much went wrong for the Padres this offseason that isn't getting cataloged. The Yankees are getting dogged and rightly so, but the Padres had less depth than the Yankees did, and they have lost They lost Musgrove last year. They lost Yu Darvish to start the year. And I also just think they lost Jurickson Profar. I think they played over their heads a little bit last year.
Yeah.
I think they're in a similar bug, and I think the Diamondbacks got better. I think the Diamondbacks are more clear-cut a playoff team right now. I see the comments, Nestor and Fried is Saturday. Yankees have tomorrow off for no apparent reason. So if you're looking forward to watching Nestor versus Max Fried, that is a Saturday baseball game. No game tomorrow.
Game series.
No game tomorrow. Plenty of time for you to listen to the podcast when there's no Yankee game for no reason. But I'll go with Cease. I believe the Diamondbacks have passed them, and I think I think the Mets and the Padres are being somewhat overrated at this point. Especially every Mets fan will tell you you don't trust. I trust the Mets pitching lab to get through a regular season and to find a few hidden gems. But last year the Mets pitching lab created Sean Manaea, who was great all regular season long, got his ass kicked to eliminate them from the playoffs. So I think the Mets can build a rotation that can get stepped on in the postseason. At this point in time, we'll have to see. I think they need an ace. I think they might get one. But right now, I'm a believer in the Mets as a wild card team, not a division champ. And I'm a believer in the Padres falling out of the playoff picture and the Yankees being able to maybe get a second crack at either Dylan Cease or Michael King. But who are you projecting we add?
Man, that's ambitious from you. I'm a little bit I'm not as that bullish. So I'm going with Eugenio Suarez, third baseman, Diamondbacks. I think the Diamondbacks are a good team. I just don't think there's enough juice there for them to keep everything intact. You see that they're probably going to lose Zach Gallen after the year. If things don't fully go as planned in the first half for them, I think they're going to look to sell off some pieces. And Suarez is one candidate who could easily be jettisoned, and not for a lot. Not for the Yankees, they're not acquiring a huge salary, and for the Diamondbacks, they could get decent value for him. Yankees need a third baseman. This would shore that up. It'd give them a righty power bat, which is exactly what they're looking for. As much as I would love Dylan Cease, and I wouldn't be opposed to Luis Robert Jr., again, tell me a time when the Yankees made a trade deadline move that absolutely shook you to your core, because you can't think of one in the last 15 years. I don't know if Brian Cashman is going to want to compete in those waters. Dylan Cease, everybody's going to be after Dylan Cease. That's just the fact of the matter. If the Padres do, look, I like the Padres a lot, so that I think we conflict a little bit there. Mm-hmm. There is a lot going wrong, so I think that they're going to need a real big push for their season to remain alive and for us to believe in them as actual contenders. But AJ Preller is not somebody who sells low. He's not somebody who gets deals done rather quickly without doing the maximum due diligence. So I know that these two teams are frequent trade partners in the Yankees and the Padres. There is no world in which the price for Dylan Cease when July comes, unless he has a 5 ERA because he's sucking, is going to be appealing to the Yankees. I think they're going to have to go a little bit more under the radar. Suarez has the power, has the pedigree to solve the third base issue. By that point, hopefully you have some sort of stopgap that's helping out Oswald Cabrera. Then you move Oswald Cabrera back into the super utility role. Now we're cooking. Now we got August, September, and October to get this in gear. So that's my prediction. I don't not like the Diamondbacks. I think they're good. I think the NL picture is just super crowded. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get, like we've seen, if you don't get off to the start that you need to get off to in the first couple months, you're kind of just doomed. And I think the Diamondbacks could be in that situation.
Yeah, the Mets are starting in Houston too, which is hilarious because we did that last week. We've already seen that. That's already happened for Juan Soto. So let's see how that turns out. Let's see how that plays out for sure. I want to get you mad about an Aaron Boone quote before we make our final predictions. Aaron Boone said today, Max Goodman, that he could use either Pablo Reyes or Oswald Peraza at third base against lefties. Could be a combination of the both of them. I'll let that situation play itself out. Come on, man. You know who you want now. Just say it's Pablo Reyes. It's not. Oswald Peraza's not on the team. This tweet also made me laugh because it actually said he could use either Pablo or Oswald at third base against lefties. They'll face Nestor Cortez in game 2 on Saturday. It could be a combination of the both of them. So it made me think that he was saying it could be a combination of the both of them in Saturday's game, which no, I don't think you can combine two people yet. I don't think we have the technology.
Maybe they can.
If they can, then the plan makes sense. They should combine 3. They should combine Oswaldo in there as well and have a 3-man.
That'd be a good player.
Could be a good player. It hits from both sides of the plate at the same time. I'm interested. Final predictions for the regular season begins. I said I was going to be optimistic.
What do you got?
said I was going to be optimistic here, and maybe this is actually not optimistic. I'm going to stay conservative because I think a lot of people want to predict the Yankees to miss the playoffs at this point.
Of course.
I can't do that. And I also just don't. I think certainly they are down at the bottom of the list of playoff teams, but I also think too many people are discounting the fact that they got run over by a wave of disasters in 2023 and won 82 games.
Yeah.
So could happen again. They haven't had an under 500 season since 1992. Could this be the season? Absolutely. Not going to rule it out. Can't tell you it's not going to be. But when I'm looking at the roster they built that was supposedly the AL favorite, and then they lost Cole for the year and Heel for half a year, huge blows. They shouldn't be the AL favorite anymore, but they're going to go from the AL favorite to dead in the water for most people. The New York Post predictions today actually had the Yankees finishing in first in the AL East in the vast majority of them. And John Heyman had the Red Sox going to the World Series, but most people had the Yankees in the 1 slot and the Red Sox anywhere from 2 to 4. Mike Puma had the Jays winning the AL East and the American League, to which I say bold choice there, Cotton. But a lot of people are still on the Yankees, and I'm not going to pick them to win the East. I think that's for Boston. But I am going to pick them to make the playoffs, battle it out with the Royals and the Tigers for the third wild card spot. I think they get it. In a close race, I think they win 87 games, win the third wild card, win the wild card series, and then losing the ALDS.
Okay. Fair. I would agree with you in terms of everybody writing them off. It's the easiest thing for anybody to do who hates the Yankees. It's the easiest thing to do when you have injuries impact your roster. But again, the revamp, the changes the Yankees have made, it's a completely different group of players in roster that we've seen from this organization. Also, if you mean to tell me, and this is fine if this is what you want to tell me, but if you think that this team is significantly worse than the 2021 version of the New York Yankees, then you don't watch enough baseball, as far as I'm concerned. The most agonizing team we've ever seen, with players with so many players lacking upside, with not enough with like quasi starting pitchers who could maybe get you 20 good starts, but couldn't. Like, even in this scenario with what we have starting opening day and the fact that Luis Heel and Clark Schmidt are expected to be back this season, even when that entire group gets healthy, that's still probably a top 5 rotation. So, and don't forget, like, the Yankees are not the Angels. The Yankees are not Aaron Judge and nobody else. This isn't Mike Trout and nobody else. These are two completely different scenarios. And like you said, this team had the worst season in 30 years that we have witnessed in our adult lives 2 years ago, and they still were above 500. Mm-hmm. So if you look at all these players trying to prove themselves, if you look at the upgrade in athleticism, the improvement in fundamentals and defense, the upside that everybody has, the ceiling, I think the ceiling is somewhere around where last year was, assuming the pitching gets healthy and you make the somewhat correct trade deadline additions. Doesn't have to be blockbuster deals, but just can't be 3 acquisitions, 2 of which are a lost cause. I'm looking at 91 and 71. I think it's a wild card because I don't think 91 wins will be enough to win the East. I don't know who comes out on top. It could be the Red Sox. It could be the Orioles. It could be the Blue Jays. I'm not writing off any of those teams. I know for a fact it's not the Rays right now. I think I'll be comfortable in predicting that. But yeah, I think they lose in the ALCS. Again, I don't know who it's to, but fatigue could set in for some of these young guys. Pitching, if it's broken down this much at this point, come October, you could be looking at a few more problems that affects the depth and affects your ability to build that deep postseason roster that allows you to compete with the best lineups in baseball. So this is my super positive and all roses prediction. I think that they do surpass 90 wins, and I think that they do make a postseason run, but it falls a little bit short just simply because of a personnel issue.
Yep. Not bad. Ultimately, not a bad fate.
No, it's a good season.
Sounds like a good season to me. Hey, but let's watch that season unfold. The tweet has dropped. The Yankees opening day hype video. Like, it's out. The Yankees have posted it. The stage is set, they say. It's true. We got to opening day extremely scathed. Not
fully scathed.
Extremely scathed, right? Like I wanted to say like mostly unscathed just because the injuries happened like 3 weeks ago. And I was like, I already wrote those off. Those already happened. No, scathed to the maximum. The most scathed, in fact. But the lineup is intact for now. The rotation decimated, but I'm interested. Let's see the kids play. And there's certainly a chance. Look, last year they went to the World Series. They won the American League. And yet I didn't attend a single win at Yankee Stadium last year. I went 0-6. And there's something to be said about how much doom it felt like that portended, where the season was great and every game I went to was awful. And I didn't enjoy myself one time at Yankee Stadium. And it does make me feel like I understand how someone could say, had you not have fun last year? They won the American League. I had a great time watching the playoffs. I quite literally went to 6 awful games. Every time I stepped foot in the place that I love the most, I had a bad time and I went home sad. So something about that felt like an omen. Just like, this season's not going to end well. You're not going to like the way this one wraps up. And I'm proud of them for making the World Series, but the omen was correct. I did not like the way that season ended up at all. Would I have rather they missed the World Series and have it ended the way it did? No. I'm proud as hell they made the World Series. I enjoyed that run. I enjoyed those moments. We have those now. Those are banked. Now it's time to move forward. And I honestly think that the fact that this lineup looks so entirely different from last year and the rotation looks completely different, and it's as close to a blank slate as you're going to get with some of the same star power still sticking around and, some carryover from last year's playoff run, but a surprisingly low amount. No Verdugo, no Glaber, no that guy in Queens. I'm very interested to see what this looks like. And my thought is, better than the doomsayers are expecting. Mm-hmm. Not as good a regular season as last year, and probably not a World Series run, which is tough to do back-to-back years. Let's just try hard to make sure it's not the Red Sox. And if it is the Red Sox, maybe they'll lose the World Series for the first time in my literal life. That has never happened before. They've made 4, they've won 4, and yet Red Sox fans will still make you believe they're in the worst route of any team. So if they get there, let's make sure they lose it. Let's make sure they don't get there, and let's have ourselves a New York Yankees season. How about that? Either way, hope springs somewhat eternal. 20 minutes till first pitch, Thomas Carannante. What say you about that?
Let's go. You know what I would like? I would like us to eliminate the Red Sox from the playoffs. Don't care how far we get. If we could just, maybe we face them in the wild card round or the DS or something. Mm-hmm. Just send them packing, and then whatever our fate is after that, that's fine.
I don't mind. That was them for a while, like 2021. Yeah. They knocked us out, and they don't care how far they go. We can be those guys again.
I'm going to be that tool bag this year.
I might be that tool bag this year. We can bother that. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if the Mets made themselves a nice run. I don't think they will. But I feel much less antipathy towards them than I do the Boston Red Sox, as always, who are building a young core, but I'd rather not. I'd just rather not right now.
Would rather not.
Well, let's go Yankees. Baseball to be played today, not tomorrow for some reason.
16 minutes.
On Saturday and Sunday, and then the Diamondbacks come to town. And that's Zach Gallen and Corbin Burns because the manager forgot how to set the rotation and accidentally set Corbin Burns for the number 5 starter slot to begin the year. And that's really cool. He gets to face the Yankees. Nice botch job, Torey Lovullo. I'm Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib, but please don't. Twitter sucks. Thomas Carannante, where can the people find you?
At Tommy's_takes. We are both at the official Yanks Go Yard account at Yanks Go Yard FS. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening. Big opening day episode. Appreciate it, everybody. Head on over to yanksgoyard.com. That's where all the content is. We will be covering games. We will be writing about roster moves. We will be informing you on everything else that you might not catch in real time. And stuff that we're not talking about on the podcast. So appreciate you guys reading and tuning in. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Have yourselves a good weekend. Happy opening day, and we'll talk to you again on Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern, live right here.
I think we will. A special guest host in my place. So stay tuned. Thomas Carannante will be live with someone you're going to want to hear from. So turn on those notifications, subscribe, rate the podcast, rate the videos, rate and review, do whatever you can to join us back here next Monday, next Thursday in perpetuity. Actually Friday, right? Next Monday and next Friday. Well, usually Monday, Thursday, not next week. Sad. But hey, enjoy opening day. We'll catch you next week to recap the weekend. Until then, let's go.